Alright, so Division 2's Title Update 11.1 went live this morning. So if you guys haven't been paying attention, there are a few changes that, you might want to take a look at. One of the most impactful that I think we're going to see for PvP is the buff to Ridgeway's Pride. Now, if you haven't seen it, the range has been increased from 10 to 15 meters, and the armor regen that you get per bleeding target in those 15 meters has been drastically increased. So now, instead of being like 1 and then 3 and then 5 or whatever, it's now 3, 6, 12, 24, and 48. So yeah, you can get a huge amount of regen depending on the amount of enemies that are near you. Now, this isn't going to save you just because you're getting large amounts of regen. I mean, you can still get burned down pretty quickly. However, in anticipation of this update, I have been working on a lot of Ridgeway Pride builds. Now, as you guys know, I am a huge fan of the Bulwark shield. Now, you don't have to run the Bulwark shield. I usually like to stay consistent. And the reason I do this is because I know when I change up a build, if I'm using this brand set or this gear set or whatever, I have a baseline. So I know how effective I feel when comparing it to something else. So you could easily change out the Bulwark shield for whatever you like. I mean, if you really want to run Riot Foam or the Shock Trap, or if you want to run some heals or the Defender Drone, whatever, feel free, go ahead. But again, I do it to stay consistent so that when I compare things to each other, I can kind of get a feel for how effective it is for me. Now, obviously, the concept of pairing things with Ridgeway's Pride is not really that difficult. I mean, you just mix and match things and find what's effective. So in this video, what I wanted to do was basically just show you two of the builds with Negotiators Dilemma that I was really finding effective. And so one of the builds that I was testing out was basically a 4-piece Negotiator, but I was using the Eclipse backpack for that enhanced damage to status affected targets. And the other variation that I was trying out was a Contractor's Glove variation. So instead of the Eclipse backpack, I was using Contractor's Gloves. Now, what I can say about these two different builds, and before I really get into it, these are just standard builds, right? Crit chance, crit damage, some armor, some weapon damage. In this case, I've got, a little bit more skill tier for my shield and for my hive, just because it's Eclipse and I don't really have that many pieces of Eclipse with, weapon damage or armor, on them, because I've already got, like max crit or something. So I'm still stuck with a skill tier, which is beneficial for the build. Now, at the core, you're probably thinking like, well, these builds are basically the same thing. And I mean, for the most part, they are, but there is a very distinct difference. With Eclipse, you are getting more damage on your basically priority target. So whoever you're focusing on, you are getting a lot more damage on. Because of this, I would say that it's probably more beneficial to a solo player, or at least a player who is not fighting, teams of 4 or teams of 3. The reason for this, because obviously you're losing that 100% critical hit damage to other marked targets in favor of basically getting that 30% amplified damage to status affected targets, which basically means you are dealing more damage to the person you're firing at, but you're also dealing less damage to the people that are around that main target. The other build with the Contractor Gloves and the Negotiator backpack is much better for, I guess, group play. So if you're playing with a team, this will allow you to basically spray more enemies and deal a lot more damage to all of them together. Now, the reason this is important is because when you're in a team, it's a lot easier for you to dance around and use your teammates as distractions so you can mark all the targets and then focus on somebody and then deal damage to the entire team. When you're solo, you don't really get that luxury. You don't have somebody watching your back, so you need to basically drop targets a lot faster. Now, overall, my opinion of it is very good. I was never really a fan of Negotiator's Dilemma. I didn't really like the playstyle. This feels a little bit more interesting to me, just because obviously, you're bleeding them, you're marking them, you're dealing a good amount of damage. So if you're a solo player, I'd definitely suggest, testing this out. Now, if you're not really into PvP, I would say the build can still work out really well for you. It's just that I would probably go with a longer range weapon. So I probably wouldn't use an SMG, mostly for the fact that you're probably going to mark targets further away from you. So SMG with, the reduced range, reduced accuracy, it's maybe not the best weapon to use. So I'd probably go with an AR or a rifle. Again, if you didn't like the skills, that's entirely up to you. That's all preference. So if you want to use more status effect skills, go ahead. If you want to use healing skills, go ahead. Now, I don't want to give the perception that all I do is just go into the dark zone and just murk people, it does happen that I do get killed on a regular basis, which is fine. I go into the dark zone solo a lot of the times. And if you go in the dark zone solo, you're generally going to be fighting, 2-man teams, 3-man teams, 4-man teams. There's nothing you can do about it. So you either enjoy the time that you spend in there, or you don't. But either way, thank you guys for watching. I am going to be releasing more Ridgeway Pride builds like this soon. Just kind of testing out different variables with them, showing you, what's good, what's not, whether or not you actually want to spend the time to actually get the chess piece, because I know a lot of people still don't have it. But either way, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.